Welcome back to the Next Play podcast. I'm your host, Alec White, joined with my new co-host, Nate Schaefer, on our little new look, re-quarantined edition of the Next Play podcast. How you doing, Nate?
Doing great, Spice. I feel great being here. I'm excited to get started. Let's see what happens.
Let's do it.
Big week of NBA free agency. Things kicked off. What day was it? Do we know?
I think it was Thursday, right? It was either Thursday or Friday. Friday was day one.
So we're almost a week into this truncated NBA free agency season. A lot of big stuff has happened. And I don't know if Spice is really like a big NBA guy, if he has a team, if he even watches the game. But, you know, let's just see what he's got, like if there's a particular team in mind that he wants to have a chat about. So, like, I'm just going to turn it right over to you. Kick us off. What do you got?
I actually have, I know you might not know this about me. I'm actually a huge NBA fan. I'm a huge Portland Trailblazers fan. And I think the Portland Trailblazers had the best offseason of anyone, and that we are actual contenders now, finally, for the first time in Damian Lillard's career. Well, besides
so today, November 25th, you're claiming the Trailblazers have their first measurable chance of becoming NBA champions.
In the Damian Lillard era, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Because obviously we were once before with Bill Walton.
Bill Walton's is he the best Trailblazer of all time?
No, Clyde Drexler is. Well, Bill Walton actually was really good.
Clyde?
Most people call it Clyde. There actually have not been that many all-time great Trailblazers, shockingly.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I can't think of any either.
It's really like
what's that name going to my mind?
Rasheed. Yeah, Rasheed was. Rasheed came after Detroit, so it wasn't his prime.
All right, Chris Kaman.
Oh, I loved old Chris Kaman. He just came at he was like the third string center. He still got his 7 points a game. He was just chilling. He was just a year from retirement. I think he's actually on our training staff now. He's like the post coach or something. Now he's retired.
Oh, that's why.
Nurkic our bigs are good. What are you talking about?
Fair.
Sorry, yeah, we got completely distracted. Yeah.
Talk to me about a handful of things that Trailblazers did to make themselves a better team in the last week.
What didn't they do is the real question. I think the biggest signing of the offseason for us was trading this year's first round draft pick and 2021 first round draft pick for Houston Rockets. Carbon, what are you doing, bro? You're making so much noise.
That's a bad trade. Carbon's not going to be able to play well on the perimeter.
He'll not be able to play good in basketball. No. Sorry. This year's 2020 first round pick and next year's 2021 first round pick for the Houston Rockets small forward / power forward, Robert Covington, who is a 3-and-D. I think he's 6'7", 6'8". He just really that's our weak spot right now. We've had a solid backcourt of Dame and CJ, more so Dame than CJ. CJ just hasn't had the consistency. Nurkic has been a really awesome young center. We've got some developing wings in Anthony Simons and Gary Trent Jr. And even old Melo was able to produce for us last year. And so our real gap was at small forward / power forward, and Trailblazers, my favorite topic.
So tell me, who does Rocco, as he's known around the league, replace in your lineup? What holes he filling? Who's he filling the shoes of?
Well, it depends what lineup we're trying to run. If we're doing small ball, there's predictions of him being a small ball power forward. I mean, if we're playing the Rockets, maybe even center. Because if they're playing PJ Tucker, he can definitely guard PJ Tucker at center. But mostly he'd have to be, I think we'd take Melo's starting power forward spot. I think Melo's going to come off the bench. We only signed him for 1 year. I think he knows that it was kind of like a desperate situation when we signed him and we're starting him. I think he obviously still produce. We re-signed him for another year. I'm actually very happy about that. Um, but I think he's just not a starter right now. He's too old. And so I think our starting lineup would be Dame, CJ, Gary Trent at small forward, Robert Covington, Gary Trent might come off the bench still. It'd be Gary Trent or Robert Covington. And then if Gary Trent, Roko at the 4, Nurk at the 5. And then if Roko's the 3, then it'd be Zach Collins 4, Nurk 5. Is the lineup I see right now.
So Collins, you're going to start at the 4.
Yeah. It's a lot
Does
of
he
defense.
shoot it at all?
Yeah. I always joke
yeah, or yeah.
He's a good 3-point shooter, but I always joke that I've never seen him make a 3 because whenever I watch, he never makes them. But he's like a career 35. I want to say. I don't want to make up a number, but
I know you're not done sort of recapping all the moves here, but the biggest question jumping out to me at this point is...
Sorry, he's a 32% free throw 3-point shooter.
32% from the free throw line.
3-point line, not the free throw line.
3-point line. Okay. I was going to say that is pretty bad.
It's concerning.
I was saying something. Oh, yeah. Right. There's a really big question that a lot of people that have been following the Blazers, they really want to know. Why is it that the front office in Portland refuses to go out and re-sign Myers Leonard?
Because the first time we signed him, we gave him a ridiculously large contract. And then we spent the next 3 years, the next 3 years of his 4-year contract trying to get other people to accept it. And he was by no means worth that contract. That was the year that the salary cap went up and players like Timofey Mozgov got $80 million contracts. And so Myers Leonard, the 2 horrible big signings we did that year were Myers Leonard and Evan Turner, both of which should not have been paid that much. And so
your franchise is peaked really at that moment. And then since then, you really haven't been able to follow through because you lose those players. It really puts a dent in your team's ability to produce.
I disagree strongly. Myers Leonard showed up in the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago to improve his. It was actually a really smart move by Coach Terry Stotts. He was trying to up his little stock in Myers Leonard so that we could trade him for something good. It didn't work, but teams were very interested, and so we were able to get him off our hands, which was really just our real goal there.
One guy that you did go out and re-sign, Enes Kanter. How do we feel about Enes Kanter?
Hot take. There's a lot of hate on Enes Kanter. I kind of like Enes Kanter a lot. He's not as a starting center. I really like him as a backup center. When he was our starter, it was a little tough to watch because he is a liability on defense.
So you don't like him as a starter. You like him as a backup. Would you like him even more if he was a 4th-string center that you didn't have to play?
No. I think he has a place on an NBA roster.
He would be on the roster.
He's currently on our roster. So
hopefully not on the floor.
No, he will be on the floor.
To play defense and run. Have you seen him run? That's always entertaining.
He can score in the post. Don't hate on my guy Enes.
I'll give you that.
He was a good rebounder, specifically offensive rebounder, and then he averaged he averaged double digits in the playoffs. He was not, and half of that he couldn't even eat during the day. He was in
he was fasting.
Yeah, it's really insensitive of me.
Ramadan.
Thank you.
Where the sun goes. I'm not totally familiar, but
yeah. So he couldn't eat during the day. Which is when most NBA games are played. Actually, that's not true. Most when I played at night, but it's whatever.
At the end of the day.
End of the day, yeah. And so he
still an extra challenge to being a professional athlete, which is impressive.
Yeah. No, it was. It was crazy to see. I mean, because he was still doing what he did, even with that. And so I'm excited. I think off the bench, that gives our second string a lot better scoring options. Him, Melo, Anthony Simons, and Gary Trent, I could see is actually a really potent, kind of deep second string. And stretching even farther, I didn't even mention Derek Jones Jr. We signed for a 2-year deal, which I like a lot. He's another athletic, long defender, obviously high flyer. We saw him in the dunk contest. He's known for all his dunks and stuff.
He was an important piece of that Miami Heat lineup with like Jimmy Butler and Crowder and Iguodala and Bam, where they could throw those five guys out there and switch everything, and then also have enough perimeter shooting to keep it well spaced, and their offense produced, and their defense was very stifling just because you couldn't really find a mismatch anywhere with those five defenders on the floor. So you throw him out there with Rocco, and you got some good perimeter stoppers for you.
Yeah, with Nurkic guarding the paint. Nurkic was all he was on his way to all defense before he had that really gruesome injury 2 years ago.
Really, I didn't
He
know
was,
that.
or at least he was trying to. He was, I think he was top 10 in the league in blocks, and then it was very noticeable when he got hurt, when the points per game we went up dramatically, and so he is a big presence. I think in the bubble he wasn't quite back into game shape yet.
You could tell there was a
Yeah,
lot of games down the stretch where
yeah,
he was physically gassed.
right. I
Both
mean,
in
he
the
just
Lakers series.
yes, Lakers series especially,
Who did they play in the play-in game?
the Grizzlies.
The Grizzlies.
That game, yeah,
There was a handful of must-win games where there
he was
was there
noticeably,
was a
yeah,
chance of like that fatigue and having to like put in Hassan Whiteside, like that would have like cost them in a very big way. But
right. And part of that was because Zach Collins got hurt again, which is one thing I'm a little anxious about this year, because he has had two very big injuries pretty much back to back. So he was out for the majority of the season with a shoulder injury, which is why the Blazers, it just really made our lineup a lot shallower. And so he was out with a shoulder, then he was back for the bubble, then almost immediately hurt his ankle again. So that's why we were running short. We were running him. So our bigs were Melo, Nurk, and Whiteside. Really, we had Nurk and Whiteside on the court at the same time. Sometimes our backup was Wenyen Gabriel, who I just was not quite NBA ready. I liked him a lot, actually. He was really brought a lot of energy and was very aggressive, but you could just tell it wasn't
is
really
he still on
smooth.
their roster?
No, I think he got signed by either New Orleans or
Pelicans, I think.
I think the Pelicans. Yeah, that sounds right. Which I'm a little upset. I'm not upset about. It's a little sad seeing him go.
Yeah, even though you lost Wenyen, it seems like one of the themes here is your shallow bench was an issue last year, and you made a lot of moves to go out and address that and go and get yourself some depth.
Yes.
Like some would say that you would look at that depth chart and say, it's so deep.
Some would say that, yes. In a tweet form, perhaps, that I may or may not have sent to you.
Yeah, that's all we'll say about that.
Yeah. No, I'm stoked. I think the Blazers development team is one of the best in the league. I'm excited to see Anthony Simons. He's gotten better and better each year. I mean, the year we made the Western Conference Finals was because him and Skal Labissiere combined for like 50 points against the Kings. We played literally 6 players.
You said Skal and who?
And Anthony Simons.
So who are the crowns and the jewels? I don't know what I'm trying to say. Who are the crown jewels of your training team? Like, who are the guys that
like young up and comers?
Yeah, that have proven that your staff is that good. Because when I think of like a really good development team, I think of the Raptors because Pascal, they turn into like a guy that was he even like highly like was he even a lottery pick? I don't remember.
I don't think so. Or I think he was like a late lottery. He was like 17, 18.
It felt like he came out of nowhere to become an all-star, and you got Fred VanVleet. They're working on Chris Boucher, which it's starting to show signs already. It feels like they have some big names that they created themselves. So like, where's that for Portland?
I mean, I think the main year I point to is the year that our entire starting 5 minus Lillard left. And so we had Wesley Matthews, Nick Batum, Marcus Aldridge, and Robin Lopez all leave for other teams in free agency. And so we essentially just lost our starting 5 besides Lillard because we signed him to a supermax because he's obviously, I think by the, in the end, he will be the greatest Blazer of all time, and he's well on his way to it. But so we literally just said, he's the future. We're okay letting everyone else go. And so from that emerged CJ McCollum, who was averaging not even like barely single digits. Like his numbers were like 3, 2, and like a half a steal or something. And then he came out, I think he got most improved player next year. He averaged like 19 a game. Alan Crabb, we made very relevant. He started averaging double digits, like 11, 12 a game. We traded him to the Nets. He got paid like 70 mil or something.
Yeah, y'all made him relevant in a way that he didn't necessarily earn on his own, if you will. Like the Blazers staff, whether it was how they trained him or how they played him on the roster, made him look better than I think he would have been in any other situation.
I mean, yes, because when he went to the Nets, he all of a sudden was very much not that still. And so, but he produced for us. And so that's what I mean, is that for our purposes, honestly, like I'm okay with that, because then it helped us, and then we traded him away or let him sign with someone else. And then we, one, didn't have to pay him a lot. And two, it isn't like hurting us when we play against him and he just goes off for like 30 a game now. I think that I agree with what you're saying. I don't know. I don't know how I think it still counts for my argument.
I disagree.
Well, kind of. I think that still counts for my argument though, because like we elevated his game. So them, I don't remember who our power forward was that year. Someone weird.
Myers Leonard?
God, I hope not. No, I think even then Myers Leonard wasn't starting. I should tell you enough about him. Jake
Layman?
I think it was Jake Layman, yeah.
Was it
Jake Layman got paid? Is that a Jake Layman or... No, sorry, no. We went and signed the Chief, Al-Farouq Aminu. And he was our power forward. And then we had Mo Harkless on the bench. Mo Harkless is another one who we developed, and the Clippers signed him. The Clippers haven't really been using him a ton. I think he's actually a really good young player. Or he's actually not that...
He just went to the Heat this offseason, the last week or so.
Yes. Which I think they'll use him for his length and defense there. Mason Plumlee, who I didn't love. He was our starting center for a year or two.
And y'all turned him into Nurk. Which
exactly.
Is
yep.
A good move.
Move. Him and a Nurk. Hassan Whiteside for us. I'm shocked we didn't sign and trade him. I feel like we could have traded him for something substantial. He was the top 5 or 10 rebounder in the league and the leading shot blocker in the league. And so whether that's due to our atrocious defense otherwise or our development team as well, he was putting up notable numbers for us in very much just a placeholder spot until Nurkic was healthy to play again.
I think in Whiteside's case, it's just that you give him the opportunity, he's going to put up those numbers just about anywhere. And despite that, you still hate sticking him in the lineup just because he's got so many other fucking problems.
Yeah. I was trying to come up with as many names as possible. I think all my ones before that are much more pertinent. Jake Layman, absolutely. Mo Harkless to an extent. Alan Crabb and CJ McCollum are the two main ones I point to, I think. CJ is now a Supermax player on our team. I don't know if I necessarily agree.
Do you know where CJ McCollum went in the draft?
He was, I do. I think he was mid-lottery. He was like 15 or 16. He was a little lower. I know Dame went 6, I want to say. Actually, no, sorry. I think McCollum was 10th, actually. He was kind of early in the draft. So I guess part of it, but you're right. I don't really know. CJ McCollum. Trailblazer. It needs to show when he was drafted. What? Draft. Gosh, I can't spell the word draft for some reason. He was the 10th pick. Yeah, Lillard was the 6th pick. I don't even know where Alan Crabb was. So yeah. So he was projected to. Well, sorry. He was basically just supposed to be, like, air quotes, the second coming of Damian Lillard, because he was another. In principle, that he was a 4-year small college guard who was putting up numbers for his team. And so Lillard did that at Weber State. CJ did that at Lehigh. And so I think they were taking a similar gamble with him. I think it became apparent that CJ wasn't game ready as soon as Lillard was. But now
Because Lillard is nasty.
Correct.
Nasty.
CJ has nights where I'm like, oh my gosh, this dude's unconscious. I think honestly, I think CJ might have a better handle than Dame, but I think Dame is just a better all around shooter and finisher. Have you seen some of CJ's moves are?
That's because that's how he scores. Lillard doesn't score that way. Like, he only needs an inch of space and it's
Right.
gone from wherever. And then otherwise he's blowing by people.
Right.
He slashes so efficiently. Like, see, I don't think anything about CJ's game, like the way he moves around the floor, whether it's his passing, like the way he attacks, like there's not much about it that's efficient. Like, it's a lot of one-on-one. You know, I'm going to use almost half the shot clock, and then I'll get you that bucket. But if I don't get you that bucket, then no one else will, you know? That's my impression of CJ McCollum.
That's relatively fair. I think there are times that that might be why CJ hasn't become an all-star yet, because Dame, in situations where you have to pick between Dame and CJ, it's a no contest. You know, you're going with Dame. Like, he's just all around, you know, top. Pick your number. I won't start an argument there of whether I say 5 or 10. You know, I'd make an argument for 5, but I think most people realistically say 10.
You could gamble 5. I think 7 is reasonable.
7? Okay.
I think 7 is very reasonable.
I'm okay with that. Yeah. But yeah, so he's one of the best players in the NBA. You're going to give it to him 10 times out of 10. And so you told me a scenario where CJ kind of comes off the bench, more of a 6-man, like a Lou Williams type situation. I really like that a lot, because I think he could thrive and get the amount of shots he needs and the efficiency. And then we can put just pure spot up shooters around Dame, like Rocco, Gary Trent, even Melo. I mean, you saw Melo spot up shoot in the bubble. He hit two huge end of game shots, and then there's many others besides that.
Clutch, some
Clutch.
would say.
Thank you. Yes, it was a word I was looking for. That was it. And so, yeah, I could talk about the Blazers all day, as you can probably tell.
I'm sure we could. Let's take one quick look at the Eastern Conference, just for the sake of things.
Okay.
I mean, last year there was 3-4 real teams that were looking to like make the finals, and so taking it from the top, it was Bucks. I believe the Raptors were the 2 seed, Celtics, Heat.
Yep.
And the Sixers and the Pacers were both wannabes, and everybody else was irrelevant, more or less. The
Pretty
Magic
much, yeah.
and the Nets were lucky to compete in any playoff game they were in. So, do you see anything that's changed?
Well, I don't know what happened in the Milwaukee trade, firstly. Like, they were looking good when they had Bogdan and Drew, because that added some really cool shooting on that team that needs shooters. And something happened on the Kings end. So now Bogdan's on the Hawks, who I think the Hawks actually made a lot of moves. I'm trying to pull up exactly who made what moves right now.
I do think that not getting Bogdan really hurts Milwaukee.
Absolutely.
Because like that was just a big move for them to show that they're trying to cater to Giannis, because let's be honest, priority one for them is keeping Giannis on that roster. And
absolutely.
It was good for them to go out and get Drew, but if they fall short this year, and you know Giannis is thinking, hey, like all I really got was Drew Holiday in exchange for Eric Bledsoe, which like when you kind of think about it, they're very similar players. I would say Drew is measurably better in most important categories across the board, but you know, like stout defensive player, super athletic, above average shooter, point guard that can handle the ball, but nothing that really jumps off the page in terms of skill set, except for I would say Drew Holiday's defense is very impressive. But
yes, and I think that is one of the main reasons they did sign him. I mean, I think that's why Drew Holiday's stock was so much higher, is because that defense has been known for giving top guards problems. I mean, the freaking, as much as it hurts me to say, the Pelicans series versus the Blazers 3 years ago, I think now. Is that my freshman year? Your sophomore
Yeah.
year? Yeah, that hurt a lot as Lillard struggled a lot to score on Rondo and Drew Holiday. So he has a
That is a
record.
stout lineup. Rondo and Drew Holiday.
Yeah,
Those are like 3 of the 5 guards that you'd want playing defense for you that are in the league right now.
absolutely. Which, speaking of Rondo, I was just looking at the free agents. The Hawks were kind of making moves. So they signed Rondo, even though Rondo's getting a little old. You saw he can still contribute a little. He contributed for the Lakers. They got Danilo Gallinari. They got rid of Jeff Teague, which, I mean, Jeff Teague was, getting kind of old anyway. He went to the Celtics, which I'm be excited to see how Jared and Connor try to spin that. They got Chris Dunn, just another young guard who I guess he, backup point guard.
Well on the perimeter. Guard
Yes.
well on the perimeter. They'll have
And
defense next to Trae Young, like almost no matter what now.
yeah,
with
Danilo
Trae
and Bogdan. They eventually got Bogdan. I think they had a really quietly, really nice offseason as well.
I think the Hawks are more or less a lock for the playoffs. Like we're gonna have to see how the new expanded playoffs version works. Now there's 10 teams that make it.
I believe so, yeah. Because it's a truncated season.
And there's 15 in the East. I would be shocked if they don't make
right.
the play-in tournament. It's trickier to say. Like it's gonna be tough to predict 10 teams versus 8 because normally it's easier to see like, oh, this team's not going to be in the 8, and so they're not going to compete for the 8. Whereas like, oh, this team could be in the 10, so there's going to be more teams that are competing. It's going to be harder to judge until you get to the time.
I'd agree.
But I would say yes, Hawks lock for the playoffs, and I'll love to see them play whoever they play. I wouldn't predict that they win a series this year, but
I think crazy things happen. Trae Young keeps developing. He's a bucket, as some would say.
Yeah, that was the biggest hole for them is defense up top because Trae Young
right.
couldn't guard his grandma, and Kevin Herter's, the Schenectady kids in their defense. It's not much to call home about.
Nah, yeah.
But now they got some dogs out there. So it could be fun. I think the Bucks will still be the 1 seed, but I'm not convinced that they made themselves that much of a better contender. Like when you look at what happened to them last series, I still think they're liable. They're susceptible to those same sorts of problems now, especially like Bogdan would have moved the needle for me. They miss out on him, and now it's looking like, oh, you really could fall into the same trap this year.
Yeah, I mean,
on what
they got Corey Craig, DJ Augustine. Those are the ones I see on this list right here. It's like the top free agents available. Bryn Forbes, I guess that he's actually solid. I don't hate that, but that's by no means that much pure shooting again. And Bobby Portis, yeah, it's not.
So Bucks, I would say, did not impress. They did improve, but they did not impress.
Yeah.
I'm still curious to see if the Celtics will nail down a center. The biggest winner of free agency in the entire league is the Toronto Raptors because they did sign Aaron Baines. And, when you have Baines, you have everything you could ever need. So good for them.
He was essential for the Suns playoff run this last year. Everyone's looking at Devin Booker.
I don't know how key he was down the line in the bubble, but there was a stretch, especially during DeAndre Ayton's suspension, where Baines was putting up like I won't say all-star numbers, but a guy that he got snubbed from the all-star game. Like, wow, this man's hooping for them, like efficient, rebounding, shooting the three.
If he was in the East, I think he might have made the All-Star game in the East.
In the East, if he had he had like a 3 or 4 week stretch. If he had done that all season from the kick,
right
in the East, you'd be talking about it. Maybe there'd be somebody more important than us talking about it at least. But really like you when you set screens like you're a Mack truck, you gotta shout out Aaron Baines. We love that guy.
Love Aaron Baines. Yeah.
Um,
Fundamental big.
so we got Bucks, we got Raptors.
And Raptors. Sorry. So Raptors got rid of Marc Gasol and Ibaka, actually. Those are two kind of big holes that I just realized. And they didn't really sign. Did they sign anyone? I haven't really heard much about the Raptors.
I just told you they signed Aaron Baines, you
Oh,
idiot.
duh. Sorry. Yeah. And then Boucher as the other one at center. So I guess they're leaning on him. They also picked up Alex Len.
Alex Len.
Yeah. No, not a lot to comment there.
The big question mark in the East is going to be Brooklyn. It's going to be James Harden. Like people are sniffing around James Harden going to Brooklyn, James Harden going to Philly. I would say going into the bubble when I was sort of looking at what was going to happen, I was saying, the Rockets, they're definitely like high expectations. They definitely are at a focal point or a pivot point where it's like, y'all need to produce now. Like,
right.
You're at the end of the line, and it didn't look like it was going to happen. That's why I didn't have high hopes for them, and it didn't happen, and they blew the whole thing out of the water. And none of that surprised me, but going into it, I never really stopped to think like, oh, what's that going to do to the rest of the league? Like Daryl Morey has to go somewhere. Like, oh yeah, he's going to leave, but he's going to land somewhere. Where's he going to land? It's Philly. Oh, James Harden or Russell Westbrook, or maybe both. Like, somebody's gonna be out of Houston soon, but I never stopped to think where they were gonna land. And if Russell Westbrook gets traded to the Wizards, I might formally submit a transfer to a different franchise because I would hate to watch that. I would hate to watch Russell Westbrook just muck up Bradley Beal's entire shtick there. Like, it would just take away from watching Brad Beal, watching him do the things he does. Make it more difficult for him to play basketball because Russell Westbrook's terrible.
Neither of us are big Russell Westbrook fans. I know that.
He drove KD out. He's the reason I can't even like KD. He used to be my favorite player. I don't blame KD for leaving. I do blame him for where he went, but
yeah,
drove KD away, and it's all Russ's fault. We had 6 years of, or it seems like 6 years. It was 3 where he was in Golden State, and the finals weren't even interesting.
Yeah. How did the league let that happen? That was messed up.
Russell Westbrook,
you're right.
All right, so next little chat. I want to hear about Spice's experience during the Thanksgiving holiday in my house, but I figure we should start with what are some traditional #white Thanksgiving activities, places you go, people you see, things you do. What stuff you used to do?
Yeah, so pretty much we would always alternate between my house and my aunt's house in Orange County.
Marietta, Orange County?
Yeah. And so that was pretty much the immediate. So that's my mom's side of the family because my dad's British and his family doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving.
Interesting. Now, Canada celebrates Thanksgiving, right?
I think on a different day. Yeah, I think it's a different Thanksgiving. Yes.
Okay, but there's just those two that celebrate, not other people, other countries.
Yeah, because those are the two that had boats come over and introduce the people there. Everywhere else had the people there originally. Well, sorry, America also had the people there originally, but we're not even going to touch on that.
You're right.
But yeah, the Canadians and the Americans both came over on ships, and it was a big deal, and they were thankful for it. And so they want to give.
That's what your Thanksgiving was like? You went on a ship to Canada?
No, I live
in. Got off topic here.
I live in California, Nate. Yeah.
Well, you can get to Canada, can't you?
Eventually, I guess.
It can't be that far. I mean, it's pretty far, but it can't be that far. When you're talking about an ocean, it's not that far.
True. Yes. Relative to the ocean, it's not that far.
Okay, so every Thanksgiving, you and your aunt would get on a boat and go to Canada.
And my cousin.
Oh, okay, cousin. How many? All right, start over. Tell me about your Thanksgiving holiday.
Yeah. So my so that's my mom's sister, and they actually have a really big family. They have 5 children, and so I have 5 older cousins, and then Ella and I. That's just my mom's one sister. My mom has another sister and a brother, and so normally we just see that one sister because she lives the closest. And so we would go either to her place in Orange County or here to our house. And we don't really have a ton of traditions. We kind of, it's like one of the few times we see each other is like that. And then we'll probably get together once around Christmas too. And then like throughout the years, if there was like a graduation or something, then we would go, um, maybe Easter or something. But like we really don't see that side of the family very often. So mostly it's just catching up. Um, yeah, it's not really, we don't really have that exciting. My mom does the majority, if not all, the cooking. My grandma helps. My grandpa makes the best mashed potatoes ever. Like, no contest. I don't know
What's the
what
gravy on that mashed potatoes like? Tell me about the gravy.
it varies year to year, actually. It's kind of crazy.
Really? I would think the gravy, at least for me, is like the most important part. Like
It is.
Thanksgiving food, a lot of stuff doesn't blow you out of the water, but then you put gravy on it, and it's the best meal of the year.
I completely agree. And so, I don't know. My mom doesn't like using like the canned, like thick stuff. And so she just makes it from the like juices of all the other stuff as she goes. And so,
Chicken giblets and whatnot.
exactly. Yeah.
That's where the flavor comes
No,
from.
I mean, so it varies from year to year. She doesn't have like a set recipe. She just like, puts it in, puts some flour in, like thicken it up, and just pop in everything she can think in. Some years she puts like some red wine in there, and that makes it a really nice something. One year she put like some, I think Guinness in it, which like thickened it up and was really kind of hoppy. Um,
Hoppy. So Grandpa makes the mashed potatoes, but is not involved so much with the gravy. What makes the potatoes so special?
um, I I I vaguely know the secret, and
It's
I'm
like he
trying to.
like instead of mashing them, he sort of like smushes them or smashes or like
So he does both.
bashes.
Yeah. So I think he pre smashes. So he uses a mixer, but he doesn't.
Grandpa smash.
but he doesn't mix it right away. I think he puts cold butter in it first, which is different than soft butter for some reason. And then he also puts milk in. I think the milk is like the untraditional ingredient or something.
Really?
I don't know. He does one thing I don't fully know, and it's kind of like a secret recipe. He like taught me once, and I forgot because I was just blown away. I was like, "It's like what? Like this is all it is? Like it definitely wasn't that crazy." But it's just something about he just like
Talking
makes sure
butter.
it's very it's like he just keeps like the right consistency. They're not like super runny and like like mush like the Sharples mashed potatoes are, but they're also not chunky because like no one really likes chunky mashed potatoes. They're just kind of the perfect consistency. Puts a lot of butter in it, and then you put little tiny little bit more butter on top, drown it in gravy, have it with some turkey and stuffing. Stuffing, I think that's my favorite um,
Really?
side that my
Stuffing's the
family
one that
makes at
does it
least.
for you. So those were your Thanksgivings, circa 2016 and before.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. No, the big thing we did. Sorry, at dinner we do the poppers. I've realized that's not a lot of people do that. And so they're these little like cardboard, really thin cardboard. It's a tube with like crimped ends. So it looks like a little like ribbon thing. I don't know how to describe it. It's like a tube and a crimped end. And so each person gets one at their placemat. And so you pick it up, you cross your arms, and you grab onto the person next to you. Then you go 1, 2, 3, and everyone pulls. And you hopefully get the end with the tube still attached to it. Because in
Okay.
that is like goodies. And so there's a paper crown in it that we all put on. They're really funny. And then inside is like each year they're different. There are different ones, but there's like a riddle, sometimes like a little toy or something. Like when I was little, I used to love like the little like tops and stuff. I thought they were so cool. Um,
Theoretically, you could win two at once, right?
yes, and theoretically you can also win none. It's always sad when you just pull it and you just get nothing. You just get a fistful of cardboard. It's just demoralizing.
And grandma's sitting there with all the spoils, totally
Exactly.
unwilling to share.
No, no. Everyone always gets one. But just in the moment, everyone's like, "Ah, you didn't get anything." And then we just go on.
All right. So that's
But
what you
yes,
did. And
yes. Then
you go to
2017.
Swarthmore College. You move across the country. You join the basketball team. You have like 4.5 hours for Thanksgiving break, so it's not really worthwhile for you to go home.
Correct. Yeah, I would have spent um more time than I had on a plane.
More time on a plane than in your house.
Also, I just don't think I would have had enough time to fly there and back with the time change. Like, I think we literally had, well, we have 48 hours like off of, we have 2 official days off of practice, Wednesday, Thursday. Right? We have Wednesday off. We never have practice on Wednesday.
Yeah, we have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I think. Or no, we have
No, we practice
practice
on
Friday.
Friday
Yeah, we have practice Friday night.
night.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And normally we have class on Wednesday.
Yes. And so, yeah, with that, I would be leaving. I would have to get like a 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock flight, which would get me in here at like 9 or 10. And then I would just go to sleep, wake up early because I'm still on East Coast time, try to help with all the Thanksgiving prep, pass out early as well because once again, I'm on East Coast time. And then I have to get up for like at like 5 for a 7 a.m. flight that'll get me in at like 4, like hour and a half before practice. So I literally bring I think I would just bring my bag. Well, I do that for Christmas. I like just bring my bag straight to practice because they just don't not enough time. So
So instead of trying to pull that off, I'm curious as to like what was your first impression? Like how did I ask you? How do I invite you? I just want to hear what you remember honestly, because this is
I
gonna be
know,
very
yeah.
entertaining for me.
um, I think I got 3 invites that year, and so Landry gave Landry gave his because I was the only one from the East Coast on the team. I was the only one
From the
West Coast. Sorry, I was the only one non-East Coaster on the team. The next farthest person that lived was
gym that year.
Jim. Right. Sorry, yeah, Jim was from Texas. Um, but even then, like that's a lot. It's a lot shorter flight and a lot shorter time change. And so Landry said, if I couldn't find anything, I was welcome at his house for Thanksgiving. And freshman me was like, okay, coach. I had no clue what to do with that offer. I think Yonda offered just because he lives right next to school. And I think just at that point, I just really didn't know Yonda. And all I really knew was just getting like a really tough shoulder to the chest from him every time he would go up for a shot. And
Sounds about right.
since I was a big and he was a guard, we like besides that, like rarely interacted besides like occasional Saturday night stuff. And just because he also was always off school because he wasn't teaching yet, was he?
That semester, his senior fall semester, he had made a sort of an abrupt he called an audible in terms of what he was going to study,
Right.
and so he was taking all of his classes were education classes that had
Mm-hmm.
off campus components to them. So he was biking and training and busing and vanning to different
Yeah.
schools at crazy hours just about the entire week. So you didn't see much of him around on the campus itself until practice
Exactly.
started, and he gave you a shoulder.
Yeah. And so then you offered. I don't even remember how you offered. I just remember you said like if you'd like to come to Thanksgiving, you're more than welcome. You were very I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Very nice to the incoming freshmen in the deer in the headlights mode. You were just very accommodating, and I appreciate
Welcoming.
welcoming. That was definitely the word. And so I just felt I was like, oh yeah, like Nate, the dude that makes all like the really loud noises and it tells me what to do when I have no clue what the hell's going on. Like, yeah, like I'd love to go to Thanksgiving with him. And so you like told me what the Amtrak ticket to get, and I was like, all right, cool. I like told my parents, I'm like, yeah, this guy on my team like invited me to Thanksgiving. Like, oh, it's so nice. But they said like, make sure you don't show up empty-handed because it's really disrespectful. And so I was like, what am I supposed to bring? They're like, literally bring anything. So I went to the co-op I was trying to figure out what the Swarthmore Co-op in the Ville, and I was just trying to figure out anything that I could bring to a house. And I could not find anything, so I settled on this like pack of frosted pretzels. They're like all like dipped in chocolate, and it was like a pretty big bag. It's like perfect. And so yeah, so I came to Langley, Virginia, via is it Union Station in DC? What's the name of that one?
Union Station,
Union.
the very one.
Yep. Um, and yeah, I was met by this really loud, um, gray-haired man with a
That wasn't the
booming
first
voice.
time you met my parents, right?
I know, no, it wasn't. But
But it was probably like
no, have we had any games yet? I don't think we have. We had no, we had. Yeah, sorry,
by Thanksgiving there are
we have.
definitely games.
You're
I would
right.
have been there for Garnet Gray.
Yeah, you're
So
right.
you
Sorry.
probably had seen him
Well,
4 or 5
I knew
times.
of him even before I came to Swarthmore because my dad was
Do
asking.
tell. Do
Well,
tell.
when I was talking with Landry, like in the recruitment process, my dad was like asking about like, do parents come to games and stuff, or is it all on all do you only watch it on like the stream? And he's like, oh no, like a lot of parents come to games. And he's like, one of our freshmen this year, Nate, his dad, it's like Landry's had such a funny way of describing it, which like hearing about it and then experiencing it were so hilariously different. He was just said, he's like, yeah, it's like Nate on our team, his dad gets super into the games. He's always really energetic. And it just seems that like the best times you just hear him bellow. It's like he said, like sometimes like a lull in the gym, like it just gets a little quiet, or just random moments you'll just hear him shout, like, yeah, baby. And it always just kind of gets you fired up. You're like, yeah, Scott, let's go. And so I was like,
So Landry told your dad while he was still like you and your family were still looking at Swarthmore as an option, like not even all the way in yet. Talking about Scott and his timely bellows. That is, oh my gosh, he's gonna be so excited to hear this. Landry, honestly, like my dad will just text and be like, "Oh, I heard you were like super excited about my cheering freshman year." Like,
I bet he won't even remember. I don't even think Landry will remember that he like mentioned that to me.
that's great though. That is excellent.
Yeah. And yeah, and then I stayed with your goofy ass for SWAT struck. And
Oh
it, like
yeah.
it didn't even occur to me that like I don't even know. Like I didn't even think about that at the time. I was just really focused on like trying not to snore too loud that night. Uh,
Good. Wouldn't have woke me up.
good. I probably did snore then. I'm notorious for snoring really badly.
So you get off the train. Did we take the same train? Do you remember?
Freshman year we did, I think.
Okay.
Sophomore year was when I had the snow or delays or whatever, and I got in super late because you didn't have a Wednesday class.
Yeah, I do remember
Yeah.
that. I mean, the prompt for this was that Snapchat that you sent from 3 years ago, like yesterday, maybe,
Yeah.
where it was freshman Spice, and you could tell it's freshman Spice sitting in my living room. I'm in the chair next to him, just passed out, asleep, some turkey cone, whatever. And like, there's a basketball game on the television, and then like a bunch of my family members in the periphery, like making racket. And it's just funny for me to think like Spice, new state, new coast, totally new experience for the holiday. Like definitely someone he's very comfortable with, but also like a very new friend. Falls asleep and now suddenly he's surrounded by people he has little to no idea who they are in a different house. And I mean, if you go in cold with just about anyone in my family, you're gonna be in for a surprise. So Spike's just sitting there like, oh, fuck, what is happening? Where
I
am
was rattled. I was like, what am I supposed to do here? The one guy I know is
just fell asleep.
down for the count. And so, and so I think like your mom and Aunt Sassy both like said something to me because like even though I was definitely feeling the turkey, I was like, no way, I'm just gonna pass out in these people's like chair. Like I was wired. I was so like paranoid about like making a good impression. I was wearing my like polo shirt, like some like nice jeans. I was
Meanwhile,
like,
I was in like sweatpants and a shirt that I got from my AAU team when I was in ninth grade or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And yeah, I was just remember being rattled. I remember your mom and Aunt Sassy being super nice. Uh,
So
and then yeah,
fast
you
forward 1 year, second Thanksgiving in the Schaefer's. You've got your feet wet. What's it like now?
well, one, it was very different because I showed up really late because the train got delayed. I remember that was a really large impediment that I was really unhappy about because we had like a whole nother year under my belt. I was like, am I invited? Like tentatively was like, am I invited back? And you were like, of course you are. Which sorry, rewind a little bit. I was also just really not anxious, but I was just like, what is about to happen when you showed me the email your mom sent with the guest list? And so it was like your family, blah blah blah, and then it was like at the end it said, and Nate's friend who goes only by Spice. It's like they didn't even know my name, and so I remember being introduced to your family, and they were like, "Oh, you're Spice, right?" I remember that they all, you're like grandma and all your extended family. I was there. We were all calling me Spice, and I just remember being really almost as rattled as when Dollar Bill called me it like the first week of school.
Yeah.
Not quite as rattled because I didn't even know who Dollar Bill. Like I didn't meet Dollar Bill during like the recruitment process at all.
Uh-huh.
So all of a sudden it was just this like one assistant coach who I didn't know just called me a name I didn't know he knew. So I'm getting distracted, but pretty similarly rattling experiences. Do you invest at all? Do you do stocks?
Yeah, I do. I
Yeah.
do, I
Do
do,
you
I
want
do.
do you want to try to talk a little bit about stocks so that we have a little bit of something professional-ish in the podcast at the end? And
Yeah, sure.
I can add it
I
all
mean,
together and we can close. Or
I
what?
didn't do any I didn't do any
You do any
personal
research?
investment.
Okay.
I didn't do any personal investment until like quarantine started. Like I had like stuff that my grandparents had set up or whatever, but I actually put my own money to good use more recently, and I tried like doing individual stocks and buying different stuff. But I always try and find like obscure, I was always like, super hyper analytical, naturally sophomore student, and it was fun. It was definitely like an interesting way to pass the time, and I was not unsuccessful, but like it got to the point where once like school started again and I had like real responsibilities, the daily updates that I would get, like, oh, this stock is down, this stock is up, like it became more of a distraction than something that I enjoyed. So I sort of turned my portfolio into just like a bunch of um, ETFs. So like stuff that moves a little bit but never a lot.
That's I mean, yeah. I think most of the investing I do is long term. I don't really like not like short sell. I don't think even you were doing that, but I mean like I don't just buy stuff for like a week or two and then sell it. I hold on to them for like months, years at times. And then if I get like some pretty good profits, then I'll take my profits and go. Or if it's just really bad and like all the projections I'm reading say it's like not looking too good, I might just cut my losses and then try to reinvest in something to try to get it back. Um,
You will be happy to hear this, but the ETFs that I did invest in my own personal portfolio was is a bunch of green energy stuff.
was
I
it
think,
is one of them I clean ICLN?
yeah,
Dude,
yeah,
that's killing for me. It's up 124% for me. I've had it for the
yeah.
last like year and a half.
That's been. I got on the train a little bit later, but a similar level of proficiency. Electric vehicles.
Oh,
It's called like it's like IDRVI drive, something like that. And I don't know, like it's not been nearly as effective, but
I'm all about that.
I'm excited to see what sort of policy changes that the new administration might or might not put up that would give that particular sector a boost. And then like marijuana ETFs, which has been going nuts. Like
Really?
every other week, there's some sort of announcement that's like, oh, like one step closer to like this type of legalization, this type commercialization, whatever you want to call it. And so that's
Really?
also
Do you have any idea what companies are in the ETF? Because I had a bunch of like the really big cannabis companies on Robinhood for a while, and they never really
okay.
did anything to me. I had like Aurora, um, it's called like CB
Canopy,
Canopy. Yeah, I had Canopy.
Canopy, uh, Tilray.
Okay. I think I only
There's a
had
couple
I
others.
think I only had Canopy and Aurora, and then I bought both of those because that was like 2 years ago now, anticipating the spike, and then they just never really did anything. But actually, I might still have
Dude,
one. I might still have
yeah,
one on Robinhood.
like they definitely have had a lot of action in like the last month.
Huh.
I'm looking at this ETF is called YOLO, which is kind of cool. Honestly, like I didn't really invest much time into figuring out exactly which types of companies.
Right, right.
I just saw that like it's North America based, US based marijuana like commercial. It's like that's more or less what I want, and I just sort of invested in it. And my total return right now is good, 34%.
Ooh,
Yeah, so
sure.
enjoying that.
Wow, yeah. And so, are you anticipating getting back in the market anytime soon? Do you have any like
In terms of
stock?
like day to day type stuff,
No, not day to day. Are
well,
you
not
like,
like individual stocks. Like
yeah,
I would say, like even though there was never a point during quarantine where I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy this for like a couple hours and then sell this next week. Like I was never scheming that much. Like I would say even just like having an individual stock and like getting a notification like this is up like 5% today because like individual stocks move like that,
right.
like, and then this one's down 10% today, like this one's up this, and like just that much attention to it was more than I bargained for once I had
Yeah.
real responsibilities to deal with, just because that would get me really anxious and I would pay too much attention to it just like throughout the day. So I just
Oh,
reoriented where I was
okay.
at, and I don't see myself going back super soon.
Even if you could like turn off the notifications, because mine,
Well,
I
if
don't have.
if I'm invested in, I want to know, like
Well, no, I think that you don't have to, because especially with like long term investments, I think you just have to acknowledge that it could go up like 5 or 10 or whatever in the day. But you just have to acknowledge that this is like a year or month/year scale, not a day scale. And
yeah,
so,
you're right. You're right.
because that's the way I do it. Like I said, like I just don't have notifications on because I would do the same thing. I think if I was seeing like, oh no, there's like 2 days in a row that this is down, I think I would start freaking out. So I check it like a couple times a week, or even when I forget a little bit, then I just do it weekly, and that's pretty standard. That's pretty good for me because like I still keep up and see trends of things, but I'm not like thinking about it 24/7. It's definitely not like one of my top priorities.
That's good. Anything you want to say about your little portfolio?
Um, Not too much right now. I kind of just took a lot of profits because around the election I was really paranoid that, well, depending on whoever got elected, a certain sector was going to, I was anticipating a different sector plummeting. So like if Trump got elected, I was anticipating like the clean energy sector kind of going down, and if Biden got elected, I was anticipating tech, I think, like specifically like international tech to take a hit initially. And so I was just very cautious of, there were other ones. Sorry, those weren't the only ones, but I was just very wary that there could be very large effects of the election on the stock market. And so I pulled out most
So
of mine. This,
pull out game.
yeah.
Nice. It's good.
Um, but yeah, so I still have gold. I bought back Disney, so Mandalorian's been cooking for it. I think
Really?
their
I
theme
had
parks are
Disney for a while. How's
it
that
was
going?
bad. It was doing
Bad?
really
Okay,
bad.
no.
No, it was.
Okay.
I almost sold it, but then I was
When?
just so like a year, like, or earlier this year, I think, not even a full year ago. It was like very negative, and I almost sold it. And I was saying I was just thought like, I'm just, we're in the I was gonna say end game. That's not the one. That's not a good quote. I was in for the long game, and so I just let it sit, and now it's back up like 15% for me. My sister bought it early in quarantine. I got her set up with a brokerage account. She's not really super into it like I am, and so I'm kind of just like her investor advisor. And so I have like her login credentials, and I help her figure out when she like if like I like help her with. I'm like, hey, like I think this stock could be really good. I'm buying some. Do you want me to buy you some too? Um, and yeah, mostly she's been pretty hands off. Lately, she's gotten a little into it. She sold something that had been doing really well that she wanted to take profits on, and I'm excited to kind of get into talking with her about it. But yeah, so I'm eyeing. What was I eyeing right now? Oh, both of the big video game companies. So Microsoft and Sony, because they both just came out with their next gen consoles. I think right now everything I'm reading says so. Yeah, the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox X have been out for 2 weeks each. The Xbox X came out, Series X came out a week before the PlayStation 5. Both have been sold out for a long time. Everyone's anxiously eyeing Black Friday because that's when a bunch of them are supposed to get back in stock, and so people are worried about what that's going to do with COVID and people freak. I'm terrified to see what Black Friday is this year. Sorry, just tangentially, I heard like Target's only doing online sales, not even in person, but it's could be a recipe for disaster.
It is a recipe for disaster.
I'm not excited about that. But both the next gen consoles, I've seen a ton of reviews on them. They say it's ridiculously immersive, a lot faster. I know you're not a big console guy, but they both got a lot of upside, and I think basically whichever one you feel the closest to. Neither one really has too much high upper ground right now. I think once gaming studios are finally able to start producing games again, then one might be able to pull out over the other. So I'd say if you have a little bit of spare money, I'd invest it into whichever one you feel best about. I think Microsoft might have more outside capital besides that. I think they're just known for having more grip in more things, but Sony's they've been stepping up the game a little. They negotiated with Spider-Man and the MCU, and the PlayStation 4 was everyone liked a lot. The PlayStation 5's been getting good reviews. The Spider-Man game specifically is one of the best video games I've heard in a while. Every review says that. I'm pretty sure I'm getting a PlayStation 5 when I have the funds to get one. So I would personally put my money in Sony. I think it might have a bit higher ceiling, but I think Microsoft has a higher floor, if that makes sense. I think Microsoft's a safer bet, but I think whatever you feel you should go with.
I think that makes sense too.
Hell yeah. Any stocks you've been eyeing or no? Or do you want to just wrap it up?
I got nothing on that front. Like I said, I've been very hands off. Just sort of enjoying the mild ride.
Yeah. Just still a pretty good way to invest if you're still getting profits.
Yeah, I'm not going to complain. All right. So, are you on your way yet?
I'll get driving. Should only take me like 42 hours.
You're going to miss it, dude. You'll have to turn around by the time you get here.
I know. So I think for once, the heavy heart, I'm going to have to.
It's not going to be the same.
I know. Thank you for the invitation. It's not going to be the same here either.
Yeah. We're not doing anything. We're just having like a family dinner, the four of us.
Right. No, we're
somber.
I know. We have been going back and forth on whether we're going to invite my grandparents over from next door. I think we've settled on sitting at each of us sits at the end of our big dinner table.
Yeah.
And with 5 people, I think it's definitely more than 6 feet. And so I think we'll just have our masks on for as much of the night as we can. And then when we eat, we take them off, and then as soon as we're done eating, we put them, or not take them off, we'll like have them dangling from our ears, spaced, and we'll just be back to having our masks on so we can still catch up. My grandpa just had his birthday on Monday, 86.
Great. Love to hear it.
Yeah, him and my grandma are both very precious commodities to us, and they are very much in the at-risk group. So we're trying to be as careful as we can. I know you've got relatives in a similar boat.
You're not wrong. All right, I think I'm gonna have to call it.
For sure. No, thank you very much for taking the time to do this with me, man. It was a lot of fun.
I think so too.
Seeing
I think it might turn out cool.
I think so too. I'll let you know how the editing goes. And we can start planning on the next one. I'm excited to do this. This is a lot of fun.
Love it. Love it.
All right, bro. Have a safe holiday to you and your family. Send the best wishes to Scott and Donna and Maddie, and the extended ones that you won't be seeing. And yeah, man.
I love
Thanks.
to you and yours too, Spice. Night night.
Night, man.